250, Dave Elswick Show, KARN. Let's go to the phones, and you get a chance to talk to the congressman. We got about 9 minutes left with him. Jay is in Little Rock. Jay, how are you? Welcome to KARN. Your question.
Hello?
Yeah, Jay?
Oh, I'm here. Thank you so much. Congressman.
Yes, sir.
I'm so proud of our Tea Party Tea Party Republican conservatives around the House, and I'm proud of the work you're doing as well. I appreciate your time this afternoon. And one of my biggest questions, I actually posed this to Dave as well, but they're classifying the Fort Hood terrorist as a guy he was excessive, worked too hard and went postal. And I thought that was a terrorist act. And they're classifying the drug emporium terrorist as a drive-by shooter, even though he was trained in Yemen by Al-Qaeda. And my question for you is, how are we to deal with this illogic? I know you want us to write to them and stuff, and write to you and call you. I didn't even think you would give out your cell number. I didn't write it down, but I'm just concerned. I'm concerned, Tim, that how close are we to a true banana republic, or how close are we to really getting into almost insolvency, where we need to take our government back? How much actual government reform do you think we need, Tim?
All right, Jay.
Well, several questions there. On the last question, we need a ton of reform, and that's why I turned down my pension, and I'm leading the charge to eliminate pensions for members of Congress, because not because that's a ton of money in the broad scheme of things, but because we will never be able to reform defined benefit pension systems for federal employees unless we deal with ours first. And I'm not talking about pulling them out from under people, counting on them. I'm talking about the next generation of workers. But that's one area we need reform. We need reform, bold reform, on the tax code, on the regulatory system with regard to spending. And what I've been telling folks is that I work with, go bold or go home, because the problems that we face are so massive that only bold reform are going to get us where we need to go. And I could talk an hour on that, but I won't, because Dave's looking at me like go to the next.
I got a lot of calls.
But let me just say this. With regard to Fort Hood, I introduced the HEAL Act, which would categorize or would give a Purple Heart to the individual killed out here in Little Rock and the one wounded. And Private Long is the one killed. The guy that killed Private Long and shot the other private, he trained in Yemen. He said he was a terrorist. He said he was on jihad. He came back over here. He shot those soldiers because they were wearing uniforms. He didn't just happen to pick them. He picked them because they were in uniform. That is a terrorist. What happened at Fort Hood is a terrorist. It's an extremist. It's a Muslim extremist. We should call it what it is. They both. I mean, they admit it. The one here admitted it in open court and everywhere else. Who's making those decisions? That is at DOD, and I think at the Department of Defense, and I think there's some political correctness going on, and we'll just have to keep pushing on that. But in any event, I agree with you that those were terrorist acts.
All right, let's move on. We got Yogi in Valonia. Yogi, how are you?
I'm fine, Dave. Congressman, I want to point out how inconsistent the federal government sometimes is. The Congress has passed a payroll tax that's going to go for 2 months and then might expire. Form 941, the quarterly payroll return that's prepared by anybody that has employees, is for 3 months. So that means that for 2 months of that first quarter, you're going to, if this rate expires, if nothing gets done, you're going to have to deal with one rate of matching and collecting payroll taxes for 2 months and a separate one for the third month. Precisely. And you're going to have to reprint the Form 941 for the first quarter, and then if nothing changes after that, you'll have to reprint it again and have a different form for the last 3 quarters. This is terribly ridiculous. Tell your buddies from now on, if they pass anything having to do with payroll returns, make it for 3 months, not for 2, okay?
All right.
You're dead on. If I could say something to that, I couldn't have said it better myself. Just to reemphasize, the House passed the payroll tax holiday extension for 1 year. The Senate passed it for 2 months. The National Payroll Reporting Consortium and American Payroll Association, I'd never heard of them before, which represent the companies that churn out the paychecks and stubs and all that, they said a 2-month extension would be a nightmare, would be a processing nightmare. So you are echoing what they said, and couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you.
Gene is in Benton. Gene, how are you?
Good afternoon. First, I want to say thank you, Congressman, for your service to the country.
Thank you, sir.
I've got a question and a comment. Do you believe that the Republicans will stand firm and not cave on this payroll tax issue? And also, my comment is, why is it makes me want to pull my hair out when the Democrats end up defining the argument, whatever it may be, and the Republicans tend to just kind of go along with whatever the argument they're making, and I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Gene, thank you very much for your call.
On the first question, I think if we are able to get our message out and people understand that we passed a 1-year a payroll tax cut extension and the Senate passed 2 months, and that they are unwilling to get together and work out our differences in a conference, which is always or usually used to be before Pelosi. If we can get that message out, I think the American people will be with us on it. If we can't, it's going to make a lot of folks nervous. But I think, look, I'm doing 2 more television shows after this. I've done this one. This is my first radio today, but I'm doing 2 television after this, and I'm doing this stuff all week. I'm going to try to do my best to get the message out, and people all around the country are. So it'll be up to the American people. But, I just think it makes sense to govern, particularly in tax policy, at a minimum a year at a time. I mean, 2 months, come on. And on the other question was about.
It's basically about the Republicans caving to the Democrats.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I think. The argument.
Yes.
Well, I think the president has a bully pulpit, and he can get ABC, NBC, CBS anytime he wants it. And it's really, really hard to compete with that. And so we just have to do the best we can by getting on radio and local television and getting out there. And to be frank, I've told Speaker Boehner that he needs to be, because he can do better than any of us in terms of getting the media's attention because of his position. I've told him he needs to get out there more. So we'll see. I just think it's common sense, and I've emphasized that I'm not afraid to reach a deal with the other side, but they've got to be in Washington to do it. We've got our conferees waiting on them. I hope they appoint some.
All right, we've got time for one more person. I got 60 seconds. Paul, what's your question?
This is Paul Elliott from Maumelle.
Yes, Paul.
And I wanted to ask Tim, I know he's doing a great job, but how does Medicare look for 2012?
All right.
Medicare for 2012, I think will stay on the budget will continue to grow as it is now. I hopefully we will have some reforms by then that will actually save it, because it's not going to go bankrupt in 2012, but 10 years from now, it could well go bankrupt. So we need to reform it and save it for the next generation. Otherwise, it's not going to be there. But if anybody, we've got to reform it to save it, and I think everybody in Washington knows that. We just disagree on how to get there.
Congressman, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. We'll continue with the Dave Elswick Show after ABC News and KARN
Merry Christmas.
News.
This is the voice of Arkansas.